Good day.
Okay then. Cheers.
Wow! Oh my goodness! No way! Oh my god!
Worked on.
Welcome to the Ngozi Cadmus channel. My name is Ngozi Cadmus, mental health and leadership expert. And it's interesting, Friday the 16th of December, I woke to headlines. Tragedy struck at Brixton Academy on the 15th of December at Asake's concert. It has been over 2 weeks, but the dust has not settled for those that lost loved ones. The dust has not settled for those that experienced that day and potentially are traumatized or will live from the emotional scars of that day. Questions go unanswered until the investigation that has ensued is completed. So this was meant to be a concert of enjoyment, a concert of celebration, but became a concert of horrors. Now, I am going to spend today focusing on crowd psychology, but before I do get into that, I recognize that people want to approximate blame to individuals, to people. I know that many people are culpable in this, from the management to the security to those that did not have tickets to those that even had tickets and ran in when Asake's concert was when they started to hear Asake's concert and unfortunately trampled upon people, you know. But the situation was tense. The situation was very frustrating for those that were outside. I want to give you a picture, bit like a pig pen pin, if you can imagine that, where hundreds and hundreds of people are squeezed into a position and they are ignored. The security are locked, that have locked themselves inside, and you legitimately have tickets. You are frustrated. It is cold. It is damp, and you're just not understanding what is going on. Then you hear the artist that you came to see performing, and you see the security guard behind the doors, and you move forward. But unfortunately, in people moving forward in a concentrated environment and people pushing forward in increasing intensity, 2 individuals lost their lives. So rest in peace, Rebecca Ikumelo and Gabrielle Hutchinson. Life taken too prematurely, which was meant to be. One was a security guard and one is a mother of 2. And they should be alive today, celebrating Christmas and New Year's, but instead their loved ones, their families are picking up the pieces. So a lot of people have a lot to answer for. But I'm going to let the investigation do its job. But I want to really talk about the crowd psychology. So now crowd psychology is in the field of social psychology. It's in that's the domain. So if you went to research it yourself, it would be under that domain. And of course, as a therapist, as a critical thinker, of somebody who prides themselves of seeing deeply, not on the surface. When I initially heard of this, my first thoughts is, okay, what were the contributing factors that led to a situation like this? Because these things could be avoidable. Now, I understand that people feel the blame should be solely placed on the security or those that didn't have tickets. And I heard that. I'm not there, so I cannot say that I understand, but I've been in situations like this, you know, being a concert goer myself, particularly a lot of Afrobeat concerts. My last Afrobeat concert, really and truly, was Davido in March of this year, but I've gone to many concerts at Brixton. I've seen Burna Boy at Brixton, and I think I've seen Davido at Brixton, and I've gone to all of the other O2, from Indigo to Kentish Town to O2 Arena. And interestingly enough, the week before, I was at a massive event with thousands of people. So I know what it feels like. And I've gone to Wireless, I've gone to Carnival, I've gone to events where you're completely herded and so many people are around you. So I'm just saying that to say, look, I was not there at that time. I cannot necessarily say that in all of the events that I've gone to, those failings occurred, but I can say I've been in a situation where I'm in a crowd of people and things go wrong, frustration occurs, arousal happens, and a stampede. And how do you handle yourself? Now, I'm not going to tell you physically, that is not my domain, but I want to talk about the psychological aspects that occur. Because what essentially happened in my eyes is that when people are in crowds, you know, unfortunately, not all the time, but sometimes even a peaceful crowd, even a crowd that came for peaceful demonstrations can end up with people dying. Literally, you can have crowds of situations and somebody gets caught in the crosshairs. I'm not talking about police officers against the actual protesters. I'm talking about within the crowd itself, things go wrong. And there's something called submergence, and that's essentially when the individuals in the crowd lose sense of their individual self and personal responsibility. So what that basically looks like is that you're in a crowd of people, right? And maybe you wouldn't push and stub. You're not the type of person to do that. But when you're in that environment, when you're in that intense crowd-like environment, you end up doing things you wouldn't ordinarily do. You end up pushing and shoving and shouting and screaming at the top of your lungs because you're in a crowd, and it fosters anonymity. No one knows who's screaming when everyone's screaming, right? So if you're like, you this and you're that and you're insulting and you're cussing and you're stopping, because when the crowd stops, you stop too. You're not the one that's going to continue shouting and everyone looks at you, you'll be like, oh, you end up stopping because no one knows technically who did it, right? That's the whole idea when you go to a concert and the crowd is screaming and shouting and you might be going at the top of your lungs, and only those that are around you can hear you, but anyone far away just hears noise of people shouting and screaming. So you can be saying all manner of things and no one can really hear you. It's that anonymity. You could be saying all manner of things to your favorite artist that nobody will ever hear apart from those that's thinking, did you just say that right next to me? So there's something about when a crowd submerges, people lose their individual self. So one of the things that I heard from people that were there was that, you know, people were highly aroused, right? People were highly aroused, people were getting increasingly frustrated. Even my friend that was there was very vigilant. Now, one of the key things that I want to say that my friend that was there, that was in that crowd, she wasn't actually in the crowd, she was out of the crowd. That's a key point. Right, in the crowd, majority of people will be in the middle and in the front. Once you're getting closer to the back, you're in the crowd, but you can look, you can kind of move backwards. For most people in the front and in the middle, you're kind of stuck there unless you really push yourself through. Yeah. So another situation, and very similar to submergence, is the whole de-individuation in crowd situations. So anonymity, group unity, and arousal can weaken personal controls, including guilt, shame, and self-evaluating behavior. So I think the whole idea of submergence, losing their individual self and personal responsibility, and the weakening of personal controls is what occurs in a crowd situation that gets out of control and antisocial behavior becomes rife. Behaviors that these individuals would not display on their own, right? That's part of the reason why criminality happens in a group of people. People do things on their own. There are criminals that do things on their own, but a lot of criminality behavior happens in crowds and groups of people. It fosters something. It kind of fosters a sense of confidence. You know, things that people would not do on their own. You know, many will not go into your house and rob you by yourself. They do. But a lot of times, even if it's just one other person, you're planning with another person. All right? So when you're in a crowd like that, like those in the Asake concert, their level of frustration, anger, people are probably doing things that if they were doing it, if nobody was in that crowd on their own, they wouldn't do that, because people are filming that behavior. But you're seeing a crowd of people, unless you stop and you zoom in, you don't see the individual faces. So essentially, people in that crowd, though they might legitimately feel angry and upset, what they did in terms of shouting, screaming, trying to break down the door, they would not do that on their own. Maybe there's always that one crazy person that will go in and start banging the door. But what tends to happen is that if, let's say the crowd dispersed, there's a few individuals there, let's say one or two, they will be screaming and shouting from there, you should let us in. I would be very sure that they wouldn't run and break down that door, because everybody can see them. You've got a video that's watching them. That next minute will go to their workplace and they've lost their job because they are showing unruly behavior. But when you're in a crowd That's what occurs. Now, one of the things that's important is that in the crowd, you lose your individuality, whether you know it or not. So a lot of people did not want to go forward, but they could not help but go forward because the crowd pushed them, right? The pressure, the physical pressure of the crowd is going to move you. Anyone's been in a tight environment of people behind you, you have to move forward or you will get let go. You will fall down. You will get trampled upon, and sometimes it can be deadly. So you're forced to move forward. So you've lost your individuality. You may not want to move forward. You might want, I'm standing still. You can't stand still, mate. You either move forward or you get out of the crowd completely. You know how it is when you're in a crowd, when you're in a concert, you're enjoying yourself, and you just sometimes get, what do you call it? You get overrun with emotions, right? You get excited, you scream and you shout. That's how people sometimes throw their bras and they do things. And again, things that they would not do. You would not go to your manager and give them him your knickers. Now, of course, why would you do that anyways? But why would you give your knickers to a celebrity, an artist? Like, ain't that unhygienic? Like, it is not normal behavior to do, but it's done in crowds because of the excitement, the euphoria. You know, you get, what's the word? There was a word that I called it. You know, you get moved with the swayed by the crowd and taken over by the crowd. We can all relate to that. And a lot of times it's positive. It's positive behaviors. It's positive reinforcement. It's positive peer pressure. The crowd is jumping up and down, and you jump up and down. The crowd is clapping, then you clap. The crowd is dancing, then you dance. The crowd is shouting and screaming and moving forward, then you move forward and scream and shout. You see what I'm saying? So when you distance yourself from your personal identity, right? And again, these are things that are not conscious. I'm not saying that someone says, I am now letting go of any self-evaluating behavior. I normally would not scream and shout and swear and kick and stomp, but because I'm in the crowd, I'm going to do that. No, that does not occur. It does not happen. What tends to occur and happen is that you do that without knowing. Then you realize yourself, maybe when you're screaming and shouting, you're like, crap, that's not how I normally behave. Or you don't until something happens, an incident occurs, and you're sitting home going, oh my God, I felt that person's head that I stepped on. I felt that person's leg that I stepped on. So what happens is that people distance themselves from their personal identities and reduce their concern for social evaluation, because you might be in a group of people at that moment in time that's angry and vexed, that are screaming and shouting and cussing and doing all manner of stuff. But in a different group of people, you probably wouldn't do that. And if you did that, they'd be like, why are you shouting and screaming? Calm down. So the reason why I think that's important, because I think that's what occurred. No matter what led to that point, the responsibility also has to be placed on the individuals that move forward. How you do that, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not involved in the investigation. I'm just a therapist who's analysing a situation that could have been avoided at all points. You know, we like to blame other people. And like I said, I'm not here to tell you or to say who should be blamed. I'm here to say we've got to take responsibility of our own actions. This is not a black thing, it's not a white thing. It's a human problem that we have. When people get into crowds, they lose sometimes sense of self and sense of responsibility and sense of just sense. They lose all types of sense. I've been at Wireless when people are throwing bottles. Now, I'm talking about empty bottles, hard glass bottles that smashed on someone's head can injure them, potentially kill them. And then when someone throws it, you don't know who threw it, you just know it came from the back. That person probably would not do that standing by themselves. In the middle of nowhere or in the middle of a street, you won't find somebody unless they're absolutely drunk out of their mind throwing bottles at random people. But it was happening in a crowd of people. And it wasn't a situation where you're throwing it and it's landing on the floor. You could be behind and just get hit from the back. I remember I was so angry and I was so vexed, but I realized to myself, I don't even know who is doing that. Who is doing that? Who is throwing the bottle? Why are you doing that? Why are you throwing the bottle? Why should that occur? do you see what I'm saying? It's occurring because the de-individuation and submergence in the group. And unfortunately, I don't want to say that every time you're in a group, antisocial behavior occurs, but sometimes it does occur. You know, not all groups, but sometimes it does occur. So now, and it happens to people that haven't got a strong locus of control and haven't got a strong sense of self. My friend has a very strong sense of self, so she predicted a lot of things. She didn't know someone was going to die, but she predicted that. As soon as she drove around, she said, something is off. Like the vibe, just that, the hostility, the anger, like she could see, because she came a bit late anyway, so she came at the point where people were not going in. and her friend was inside. You know, she left at the point where she started to hear screaming and realized that, okay, this has gone unsafe. But she was at the back. So you see my point in question, a lot of people are at the back, because for me, when I'm in crowds, and maybe when I was younger, admittedly, but at my age now, and a lot of the concerts I go to, I'm always at the back. I don't like being at the front or in the middle, because that's where situations where you get pushed, you start feeling unlike yourself. When I'm in crowds, I don't like how I am in crowds. I am not going to lie. Part of the reason why I don't like to go to a lot of like massive clusters of events, and even when I go out like the clubs, I ain't in the middle anymore. Like, I'm at the side of, and even when I was in the middle, I didn't like it when it's squashed. When I'm in the middle and bare people around me, I'm trying to come out of that. In the middle and there's space, fine. But you see, I have to dance a lot with a lot of space. That's just how I am. I don't like a lot of people invading my personal space, because I find that very weird and also irritating, because people are pushing you, and it's not a situation where it's not a situation where sometimes you can say, look, you're pushing me. That could turn into a fight, and I haven't fought in over 15, 16 years, and I ain't trying to fight. Yeah. I can swing in a fight. I never lost a fight, but I'm too cute for that. They say no. I'm too mature for that. So when I was young, 16, Primark opened in Oxford Street. Those that remember, I was in a queue, and the stampede occurred. Stampede happened. My friend actually dropped, and I had to drag her up. And I thought about that situation after I heard of Asake, and I thought about the situation when that occurred at 16, because something in me said, why did I run like I ran like a wild animal? Why did I run like everybody else? Okay, I was young and we're excited that Primark was opening, but because everybody else was running, it was kind of like a thing that if you come out the crowd, you'll go all the way back at the queue. Hell no, I'm staying in that crowd. And people go so mad in situations like that. People have no consideration or care for the next person. So you've got to concern yourself with yourself and the next person. My driver instructor always told me, you're not driving for yourself, you're driving for everybody else. You don't know what that person is capable of or doing, or how they've been trained to drive. You got to consider yourself and other drivers around you, because some people are driving recklessly. That's something that's been in my head. You got to be considerate of everybody else and yourself, because not everybody's considerate of you. Okay. So it's inevitable that every single person watching this video will find themselves in a situation where they're in a crowd. It's just inevitable. Unless you never leave your house, then fine. Whether it's a crowd of 10, 20, 30, 100, 50, you'll find yourself with more than 2 or 3 people at width, at length, all around you. Your circumference will be filled with different people, right? And it may not be people that you know, right? I'm not talking about crowds of people that you do know, although crowd psychology is part of that. I'm talking about people that you usually don't know. So one of my biggest advice and the whole point of this is that don't be in crowds. Please do not. I just don't think you should be in crowds. I really don't think you should be in crowds. I don't want to put a blanket statement, because some crowds are amazing and nothing goes wrong. But I think most crowds always end up hostile. I don't mean they end up people being trampeded upon, fights, but I don't know any crowd that you're pushing me and you're moving that I'm happy in. I'm not happy in. I might be happy that I'm moving forward, but I'm not happy. I don't like people. That's maybe me. So this could be my projection and my bias. But I would probably say stay apart from crowds, especially during high arousal, both positive and negative. Because positive high arousal can turn quite quickly to negative high arousal. We see it all the time. You're in that event, everyone's having fun, and you start hearing people fight. You know. Anticipate what could go wrong. Like I said, you have to anticipate what could go wrong. Know the exits. Just think ahead of situations. You never know. No day is promised. Rebecca Ikumelo, Gabrielle Hutchinson. Gabrielle Hutchinson was coming to work. She was part of the security and she passed. There's somebody else fighting for their life. And Rebecca Ikumelo came to enjoy, pure enjoyment. And she died. Her 2 sons who have autism are left without a mother. Their father obviously maybe is not in the picture. Her mother is left without a daughter. She shouldn't be burying her daughter because of reckless behavior. Yes, the security, yes, all of that. But if people just said, you know what, we're vexed, but what's the point of standing? Because this is the thing. Let me lastly say this. Everything you do, everything has a reaction, right? So the security letting people in that didn't have tickets, the security closing the doors on everyone that had tickets, the security's behaviour, the management behaviour, potentially overselling tickets, all of that contributed to an angry crowd. But still within your anger, you had responsibility. What was the point of storming through the doors and breaking through? Because see the consequence now. You might say, oh, let's blame that. But the consequence of that action, though all of these other things triggered that action, still, reality, this is a court of law. If you beat me up, and because you beat me up, I would want to take revenge to kill you. most people might say, well, that might be a legitimate reason to try and hurt somebody back. Like, they tried to kill you, but they didn't. You recovered. So let's say, forget beat me up. I got killed by somebody, or somebody tried to kill me. I'm not even talking about gang stuff, yeah? Just talking about somebody tried to kill me, and I'm just angry and I want to take revenge on them, right? And then I do kill them, and then I get caught. The judge, the jury is not going to be making a judgment based on your reasons for doing that. You killed a person, it was premeditated. Or maybe you didn't try and kill the person, premeditated. You happened to be in a position that you just did it in that moment. The point is, you killed the person, you got caught, you're now going to jail because you actually murdered somebody, right? Your reasons for it are not justifiable in the court of law. They might make people understand your what fueled your mind. So, and maybe it's not a good example, but the reality is, to me, nothing justifies that situation because there were people that didn't run forward. So I get that people are angry and frustrated, but you see, in that moment of anger and frustration and letting that fuel you and breaking through that doors, several people were injured and 2 people died. That could have been avoided by being vexed, by being annoyed, but just not doing anything. You heard him in the concert and you just go, bruv. You just get vexed. You just, like, I'm saying this because we've all been there. Everyone that made the comment, whether they're wrong or right, probably have been in a situation where, very similar situation. So I know I have not stampeded forward. I've seen people be angry because I can't even give an example, but something's in my head of a memory where we're locked out of something and we want to go there. We've legitimately bought tickets for something and we're not being allowed in and nobody's saying anything. This is a perfect example. So it's different, but I went to Nigerian embassy, Nigerian house. Anyways, they locked the door in my face. It was raining. People outside was soaked. Slammed the door in my face. Did I bang the door? Did I scream and shout? I walked away. Wasted money. Different situation. But I'm talking about I was still aroused. I was angry. And to be honest, oh my God. Let me forget. That was the day of the strikes. Was that a strike? No. Something happened that day. I was in wherever that place is, right, near Charing Cross, right, near Bankman. I live in Croydon. That was about 2 o'clock. I got home 7 o'clock. Trains weren't operating. We were in the train station in New Cross for an hour. It was raining. Thankfully, there was something coming, but it was cold. Nobody said nothing. I was vexed. Now, yeah, okay, I did speak to the guy. I said, you guys are out of order. You guys are out of order. I said, you have people waiting for an hour. Can't you just tell us why? If you just said why, the train came and we couldn't even get on the train. I gave up. I couldn't wait for another hour. I just busted home. The Ubers were just expensive. I just thought, I'm not paying that money. Now, there is no reason why I should now go to the front desk and start punching the window. I feel like I had every right. I was so angry. First, another person slammed the door in my face. I'm wet. The second person, the second worker said nothing. They see people, they're not giving us any explanation. If they don't know, at least say we don't know why. Maybe you should find alternative things. You're just watching us stand there waiting for a train that's never gonna come. I'm just trying to say that I was aroused, I was angry, I was vexed, I was disappointed in humanity because I just felt like a lot of things in that day could have been avoided. You ain't got to slam the door in my face like that. I'm a human being. That's not nice. You ain't got to watch me get wet for no. Like, there's so many things, but that does not legitimize me. That does not give me the justification to get up and to start shooting, to start stabbing, to start going mad and vexed. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So whatever contributed to that situation does not alter the fact that people should not have moved forward, right? But let me tell you this, it was a very small percentage of people. Now, there might have been a lot of people that moved forward, but because of how cramped the situation was, if 10% of that crowd, which is basically 10, 20, 30 people start moving forward, hundreds are moving forward. That is the power of crowd. That's why I stay apart from it, because it takes only a few people to push. If somebody's at the back of you, at the side of you, at both sides of you, at the front of you, you have very little leeway. So maintain your individuality. Do not get sucked in or do not get swayed by the crowd. Maintain who you are. You came in as Ngozi Cadmus, who doesn't scream, doesn't shout, doesn't cuss for no reason. Maintain that. Maintain your individuality. Maintain your individuality. Maintain your individuality is important. Maybe if people had that understanding, maybe a life could be saved, maybe not, I don't know. But hopefully this message will help other people maintain themselves in crowds. Look, don't get swept up, positive or negative. Remain who you are. In this day and age, social media, cameras are constantly being filmed. If you don't want to be filmed being embarrassed, my biggest advice is just to act like you would if you were being filmed, and knowing that this could be sent to friends and family. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't change yourself. Do crazy things because you're in a crowd of people, because you feel anonymous, because there's a group unity, because your personal control is weak, and you may be feeling less guilt, less shame, not really evaluating your behaviors and thinking, is this conducive environment? Reality is, running into that door was not conducive. It might have made you have a temporary relief and frustration, but the concert got cut. See, this is the thing. If I was there, I know for a fact I would not have run, because I would have known that by doing that, I'm probably going to spoil the concert. It will just be common sense to me. You run, break the door, concert is dead, concert is killed. That's what happened. Those that were enjoying the concert, their concert stopped. Like, for real, their concert stopped. If people had just considered that, maybe if everyone didn't do anything, they would have maybe compensate people or created another day, and your ticket would have gone to that. Anyone didn't, you know what I mean? There could have been a way, may not be, this could be unrealistic, but there could have been a possibility of ensuring that you would get another concert for free or whatever. But 2 lives have lost because of all of the things that occurred, led up to the point where people's controls were weakened. You know, people didn't think ahead, and that goes for everybody. The security didn't think ahead, the management didn't think ahead, right? You cannot be complacent. Look, most concerts no one dies, but some concerts people do. You've got to act like a person can die in this concert, because you don't want that concert to be yours that they die on. So you've got to think ahead. Likewise, I don't drive now, but when I was driving, I've drove for over 10-15 years. I never had an accident, but I've got to drive like I could have accidents. I've got to be careful, because everybody that has accident doesn't think they will have accident. That's reality. Everybody that has an accident by driving doesn't think they leave the house assuming. Everyone that suddenly dies doesn't assume they're gonna die. Do you see what I mean? So we don't know, and we just don't know. So you got to sometimes live a life that you just don't know. You just got to be careful and be and think ahead and be considerate of you, yourself, and others. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts. What, you know, do you blame? Are you blaming anybody? Why am I looking there? Oh my God, the camera's here. I was looking. Oh my gosh. Apologies. I don't know what I was looking at. I was looking at the phone, the phone handle of something. I was just looking at it. I don't know why. I thought that was the camera. Oh my God. I got lost in the thoughts. Yeah, let me know your thoughts about the situation. You know, what's your thoughts? What do you think about my take? Because I'm not here to really attribute blame to any individual company. I'm here to kind of consider crowd psychology, because I feel that contributed to the situation. I think it's an important thing, because I see it in a lot of events. I don't like it. I can't stand crowds because of what occurs in crowds. It very much frustrates me, because I don't want to fight anybody. You don't know who you could be talking to. You know, they can fight you. I don't want that. Let me give another example before I end. Was at a concert years ago. A guy was smoking weed in the concert, but that's annoying as well. Like, how they get through smoking weed. Okay, it was O2. They were smoking weed in the concert, and the guy was with girls, and he was right next to me, like literally just there. So I was like, "Can you stop smoking weed, please?" He said, "Okay." He continued. I said, and I'm sorry, I meant, "Can you go somewhere else to smoke weed? I don't like the smoke. It's affecting me." He continued. I said it a few times. I realized that, well, if no guy's going to step in and say, look, this girl's told you to move, I'm not going to continue to do that, because I don't want to fight. Like, you might get vexed and start fighting me, or the girls around you might say, "Can you stop talking to him like that?" I don't want to have an argument and fight. I could see how quickly that could have led to a fight, because I was being nice and polite, but he may not have responded in that way, and they may not have responded in that way. So even though they were violating me, I moved, because I said it was not worth fighting over. Right? I could anticipate this could lead to a fight. Not because I want to fight, it's because they may not want to continue to be told, can they stop smoking? They'll get irritated after a while. And one thing about me, once I'm in a fight, I won't stop the fight, but I don't want to get in the fight, so I avoid fights. I avoid situations that can escalate. Right? It's all about de-escalation. So we need to start implementing de-escalation tactics for yourself and for others. Don't put yourself in a position that it can lead to a life-threatening situation. It's not worth it. No one should have died at a concert, especially an Afrobeat concert. Anyways, thank you. That's all. Let me know how you find this in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next video.